Okay. Woo. What are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm saving the pin so that I can
like,
find it later.
You're not working on a project at the moment. That's
well,
okay. That happens, right?
I want to. But,
Good morning and welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The Adventures of Liz and Rebecca.
And it's the Dear Becky and Lizzy without too much happening on the Dear Becky and Lizzy front edition. I'm Rebecca, aka Becky. I was Becky up until college. So I can be it for a day a week. Why not? I am the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in kind of trying to escape the rain, Brevard, North Carolina.
I'm Liz, aka Lizzy, the minion there. It's gonna rain this afternoon.
It poured overnight. Like right when I went to bed early last night. My phone says I got I have to look it up. I think in the 80s for my sleep efficacy or whatever they label it as. I was like, what? Maybe because I was in bed for a while. Because my sleep was like, I woke up. I wake up many times a night, shall we say. One time I came out of sleep and my right calf, Charlie horse in the middle of the night, like that hasn't happened in a really long time. My right calf was just like, and I had to try to make it relax. And my cat was like, what the heck? Later on in the same evening, my other calf, when I woke up, was like, and you know how it feels in the middle of the night where it feels like it won't unclench and you're going to die? Had that happen with each calf at a different time last night.
Were you running in your sleep?
I guess. I don't know. Maybe my body is telling me I need to get back to all the crazy running I used to do. I don't know.
Could need some potassium and magnesium.
I've been eating bananas. That was my thought in the middle of the night as I'm waking up with Charlie horses is like, but I'm eating bananas right now more than I ever have in like the past 10 years. So what the heck?
I don't know what to tell you.
I know. I shouldn't yell. 82% sleep quality. That's the high. I mean, I've only started tracking for like a week, but that's the highest I've had so far. It actually says in here, let's see. Your time of sleep has been on average 5 hours and 51 minutes. It was a lot more last night. It was like almost 8 hours. Because I was so tired. I had to go to bed. There was no choice. This equals a sleep efficiency of 85%. Generally, you want to be about 85% or more. The quality of my sleep was 82%. It's usually 70 or below. So if I can get to sleep, that means I should go to sleep earlier. I was planning to be in sleep by 9. I think I was in bed by 10, but I was in bed before. I set this thing to start at 10. Anyway, I'm sure y'all are like.
I'm not even gonna read you my sleep
stats. I'm sure y'all are like
fantastic.
Of course they were. Of course they were. Of course you have fantastic sleep.
Last night I did. Night before last, my watch didn't tell me. It was like, you got like an hour and a half of sleep finally. And I'm like,
no.
No.
No, it's really funny. This is like a heart attack monitor right there though. Like the little thing is like, some of that's my cat, but no, it was just like, what? I think it means I need to go to bed earlier, but that's hard. We had a friend in yesterday who was just like, I don't understand how you put out so much content. And I'm like, well, I don't do a whole lot of other things. Maybe I don't sleep. I don't know. Like this is the day before 68%. And it's like, whoa. Anyway, y'all didn't come here to hear about my sleep cycle. So I know there's people out there right now who are like, where's the yarn? There's yarn. It's hiding.
It's there.
And look at all the yarn behind us. There's still, oh, this might go right there though, right? Okay. But we got an email that came in on the submit form on our website, which is not the email we all keep telling you to write to if you want to make sure it gets on this show for this the Thursday show. That's Liz at sundragonartandfiber.com. But I passed it along to Liz so we could maybe approach it today. I think we've already talked about some of it, but we'll revisit because it's a question that came in. We don't have much. I'm sad to say we don't have much to say on this topic, but but we can try. So 70%, 62%. Oh, that must have been the time that I went to bed really, really late. Yeah. I went to bed at like 12:30. I don't remember going to bed that late though. This is weird. Wait, what day is this? I'll put this away. It's distracting me.
It's so not a thing. Oh, okay. We have another Dear Becky and Lizzy. So we have 2.
We have one that I'm totally unprepared for. Like we ever prepare for things.
It came in while I was frantically trying to get ready this morning because I may not have been motivated.
Let's take these in order. Let's do the one that I'm almost mildly prepared for, and then you can surprise me with the new one. How about that? Okay. Excuse me while I cough up a lung.
Wait, flag this one just so I don't lose it. Okay.
Just coughed in my hands, you know.
What do you like to snack on while knitting on a project? And what fall ideas are coming?
Okay. So we've gotten the question of what we snack on while knitting before. And we may or may not have answered it during a Dear Becky and Lizzy. But honestly, I don't really attach my knitting to snacking personally, would be my answer. Sometimes knitting is because your hands are occupied is a good way to not snack if you're not wanting to snack. But I will say some of my favorite go-to snacks are things like gummy bears. And no, it's probably just gummy bears. Sugar. I'm not eating a lot of sugar right now though, because I'm just not eating a lot right now. That's, you keep saying, because I'm I don't cook a lot. I've gotten out of the habit from living in dorms for so many years and then having a husband-like person who shall not be named who didn't mind cooking, so I just let him. And now I'm on my own again. And I go, wait, cooking what? and Liz keeps saying baby steps.
Yep.
Eat first. Actually get to where you're eating food, because that's happening on a slightly more regular basis right now. And then work on the whole cooking thing. My cooking skills have reverted to not quite college level, but almost. If I have a recipe and I have the ingredients, I can cook.
Well, I have to say you're doing better than packages of Top Ramen.
Yes. Yes, and I guess that's college level. Although every once in a while I regress to Chef Boyardee, which is pre-college level. So that's comfort food though. It's so bad for me, but it's comfort food. I have been doing a lot of boxed mac and cheese during the pandemic, but again, that was comfort food. I guess that's a step above ramen. I don't know. I haven't had either of those on a regular basis in quite some time. But the idea of, hey, I have meat in the fridge or the freezer and I have veggies and I can whip up a meal, never really got there. I had a friend who would say that my family are label people. Like we like reading labels and following recipes and things like that. But following a recipe, especially when you're on your own, means spending way more at the grocery store to make this one recipe happen and then having all these random leftovers that you may or may not use. And maybe eating the same thing for 4 days. I'm not there yet. So, you know, and we never moved the mic closer. Not that we need to move it closer. I bet it's fine. Anyway, so back to the subject at hand. Snacking. Do you snack?
Yes.
When you knit?
Well, I snack periodically throughout the day.
So it's more of a
it depends on like if it's knit night, I might have a whole bowl of snacks, like random.
And you have ice cream on occasion.
And I have ice cream on occasion, but it's not something I can grab in between stitches. I have to put knitting down. Popcorn tends to be sometimes.
But and I actually will put out a good point that when I started doing knit mornings or afternoons over at the old shop, or especially knit mornings, I'd be like, oh, I'll bring in pastries. And someone made an excellent point of sticky food.
Yeah.
Doesn't really go hand in hand with knitting, or you can't do them at the same time. You have to do the snack on the sticky food, like the buns and the croissants and the things like that, and wash your hands and then knit.
Yeah. It's like, eating chips. There's a wide range of chips. To knit with, but Cheetos and Doritos and anything that's going to leave
right. That's the joke that's been on our windows for a year and a half. of that we took off the internet and just illustrated on our windows, and people still go, oh, that's so funny, and they take pictures. And I'm not meaning to mock them, because it is funny. It's just, for us, it's funny on several levels, because it's just been there for so long.
Yeah.
It's the wash your hands like you just ate Cheetos and want to knit or crochet with pure white yarn. You don't do them at the same time.
Yeah. It depends on the day. It depends on the temperature. It depends on like so many variables.
Yeah.
Here we snack at OSHA time, 3:30, 4 o'clock.
OSHA is our mandated OSHA break. You know, safety and security.
It's hard.
Snack.
It's hard to do life past a certain point
if you don't have caffeine.
If you
and
don't
snacking.
have caffeine and snack.
Mm-hmm. And so cookies, you know, there's so many things, but they don't tend to be simultaneously with the knitting on many levels. But I will only do that if I'm like ravenously hungry, which comes and goes right now.
Yeah.
So I think we would have the general advice of not to combine messy foods with knitting unless you're prepared for it.
Yeah.
So knitting and crocheting both, unless you're prepared for it, or having a way to eat it that doesn't involve your hands, because your hands are going to get all gooky, you know. And then so I don't know. I don't tend to put knitting and crocheting and food together in the sense that one leads to the other.
Partly because like people have asked more this past week. Well, you work in a yarn store, you must knit or crochet all day long. No, we don't have time.
That whole producing so much content thing.
Yeah.
No time.
And the only time that we really knit or crochet all afternoon is during the Saturday or Sunday sit and stitch.
During an event where that's what's scheduled to happen.
Yeah.
Like if we have a slow day at the shop, we might sit and knit. And you've seen some posts on social media of me sitting and knitting at the shop. But it's not as frequent as you might think. More often than not, I mean, I can look around at several places in the shop that we should have been cleaning all week that are still there because we haven't had the time, or we've given ourselves a break to sit and knit, but we really need to get to that other stuff. So finding the balance. I mean, the same thing with eating and knitting or crocheting. You got to balance that, because at the same time, it can be messy. But finding the balance between keeping the shop in order and figuring out how to let people in a controlled fashion, and actually, you know, giving ourselves some off time so we don't fall apart and die. That's a struggle sometimes.
So the second part of the question is, what fall ideas are coming?
Well, and here's the thing on that is I don't plan ahead that far. I probably should, but you guys know we don't even do show notes. We don't even plan ahead for these shows. We kind of hope people throw questions at us and things like that. And my reps for years now have been trying to get me to plan ahead, a season ahead. That's what you're supposed to do at a yarn shop, is plan a season ahead. So they will show up in the spring to sell me yarn for the fall. And sometimes I can wrap my brain around that, and often I can't.
And a lot of it for yarn, and sometimes clothes too, but more often than not for yarn, it's lumped into categories. So you have spring and summer.
Yeah.
And fall and winter.
Right? Yeah.
And for my crochet or knitting, I do summer or winter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't generally go, well, I need something mid-range, because there's something in either category I can pull out and go, this will be.
And there's general categories too for what you might want to knit for the fall and winter and for the spring and summer. But and those longer sleeve, more woolen things, you know, things for temperature appropriate. For the fall and winter is what I'm thinking. But that's not new stuff. Sometimes, especially if designers are coming out with fun things, we won't know. Like Andrea Mowry published a bajillion things last year, and that was fantastic. But it wasn't like we knew months in advance, unless you're a test knitter for her. You may not know.
And then you're not allowed to say anything.
But you may not know months in advance what's coming down the pipeline. And honestly, I'm not in the know with enough designers. Like, I love when people come here and fangirl over us and say, I watch your show and it's open in the shop. It is you. And it still blows my mind. But we're not cool enough or famous enough that, or have tried to get in enough with some of these designers that we know it's coming. To like social media and YouTube are full of like, well, someone sent me promotional materials, or I have the inside track with these people because we have an arrangement worked out. And that's not us.
No.
I
We
pride
kinda
us.
wing it.
I pride that ourselves on our show being genuine, and that we're not trying to sell you something because someone sent us a freebie. I mean, I am trying to sell you stuff because I own a yarn shop and I would like you to buy my stuff, right? But it's not that someone has like sent me a freebie or sent me promotional material or is paying me to say something. Um, there was a knit and chat question recently that I dipped my toes into, which is like, what podcasts should I watch? And I was like, well, I'm biased, but there's mine. And some of the comments on this thread were, well, I used to watch X, Y, or Z, but then they kept trying to sell me stuff, or I didn't like that it felt like an infomercial. And I read those comments and went, I get that. And we're not trying to be an infomercial in that sense, but we are at essence, we're talking from our place of business, my place of business, my passion in life, which is my yarn shop. And so it's going to come up occasionally that we're going to show you stuff that we are hoping one or two of you might buy. But that's not the only reason. I mean, we started this to just share what life in the shop is like, or what life with us, the Lizzy, the Liz and Rebecca show, right? Before the world fell apart. And then it became an essential part of how we communicate with the outside world and even keep our local knitters in touch with what's happening in the shop, because it's not a free-for-all, just come hang out in the shop all day like it used to be. I hope that someday we'll get back to that, but we haven't had that in a long time.
The VSC, which is we're definitely going to try and sell you something.
Much more focused, right?
That came out of knit nights when people would go, what's new? And shout out to Kathleen. She could QVC that for me.
QVC this for me. So tell me more about this. Yeah, what's going on with it?
Get into the nitty gritty details of, oh, you got new yarn. Tell us more.
And it was like, maybe people do want to hear that. And the people who don't want to hear that, and if you do like our podcast, our vlog, or whatever we're calling this, skip the Wednesday shows, because those are much more targeted on details about specific yarns and notions and things like that. But they're going to creep into other shows we have too. I mean, we're about to show off some, looks familiar, but it's different. Yeah, so I've wandered way far away from the topic, but I don't think I'm as a yarn shop owner, I'm supposed to be thinking several seasons ahead, and I'm supposed to be planning. And I find that, especially with how life is right now, I'm going day to day. And so far it's working, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for you all out there in the Sun Dragon community, because if you're watching this, you are part of our community. Yay. And yeah, so fall, I mean, when I think about fall, I think about some of the things that we're showcasing for spring and summer would also work. The yarns that we talked about yesterday are much more fall yarns. They're not necessarily, they're not plant fibers. They're merinos. They're more for the warmer temperatures. I would be making sweaters and scarves and shawls and accessories that are for warmer times. But we're not always geared that way. So that's a tough question for us to answer. So I hope we've done it justice, because we don't really have an answer. So, and I haven't let a yarn rep into the store. I've talked to them on the phone, and I've talked to them over email. Haven't let them in the store or even outside in over a year. And that, I think, flummoxes some of them, but I still try to order from those companies because they get a cut, and I love the companies and I love the yarn, but I have to be targeted on what's going to sell rather than taking a chance. It's really hard for me to take a chance on a new yarn right now. I might, but it's got to be really targeted. So anyway,
I just read our next email, which kind of
that
ties
we're
into
unprepared for.
Well, it kind of ties into what we've just been talking about.
Oh crap! What?
But
I love all the questions, but oh crap!
No, it's not bad.
What do we got?
Dear Becky and Lizzy, you always show beautiful makes for the shop. Mm-hmm. I'm curious how you decide what to make. By the new yarn received, by seasonal colors or new patterns you find, and how do you rotate them? After you have them up for a period of time, do you sell them or just put them to the side until they tickle your fancy to put them back up? Sorry for the long question. The newbie knitter.
No, it's not a long question. It's a great question. And there's what we probably should do, and then what we do.
Okay, so like,
where do we want to start on this?
I'll just start with the shop samples. Like Rebecca finds new patterns, intriguing patterns. Oh my gosh, I have to make this patterns. Like there really is no rhyme or reason to most of them. Sometimes there is, sometimes there,
I'm trying not to interrupt.
And she will find a yarn. A lot of times it's like the same yarns. Or if we have a new yarn in the shop that she wants to display that will work for that purpose, she'll do that. And then we put them up, and we don't really rotate them except for the big box that we have with all of mine. And we don't sell them.
Okay, well, here's sorry, are you done?
But it doesn't rotate based on seasons either. Go ahead.
Not really. Okay, so here's what we probably should do, right? I think what a lot of other yarn stores do is they will do either what comes with the yarn, what has already arrived. You know, sometimes you get samples like those reps I mentioned before. If you order a whole lot, sometimes some samples come with them, which is fantastic. We have a few of those in the shop, but not very many, because I really like to be like get hands-on. And like we have people who offer to do sample knitting for us. And that for me has its own level of complication with
control freak.
Part of it is being a control freak. And part of it is, I guess this is also being a control freak, is if I've made it, I can tell you what is good and bad about it, or what I uncovered in the process of doing it, or give you advice on what should happen. If someone else has made it, I don't know. And so when they're like, but how did it look like this? I don't know. I can read the pattern and try to figure it out. There's also the sending yarn out and getting it back. The people who've asked recently, I trust more than a person I don't know very well saying, I'll knit for you. And I'm like, that's great, but I don't want to take too many chances and not get it back, you know, or figure out how it's going to work. I've never really figured that out. But a lot of yarn stores will also, they will rotate things, or maybe when the yarn is gone, they will sell off some of their samples. We just have a huge stockpile of samples
we
now.
we have auctioned off samples of expired yarn or DX yarn to fundraise
for charity,
for CF Foundation,
for Cystic Fibrosis Foundation for my niece. And we have a whole bunch more of new yarns we're moving out of the shop that we could do that with. Some of it is, if it's a sample from a yarn store, I don't feel like, or yarn company, I don't feel like I can sell it. I don't think they've ever wanted them back, but
there was one they wanted back.
That was Sugarbush.
Yeah.
Sugarbush lent me their samples for a period of time. Yeah. It's true. But just in case, I don't let go of those. Some of the other yarns, even if the yarns are gone, sometimes the pattern is really nice, and we still want to keep a sample of that in the shop, which has its ups and downs, because again, people say, ooh, that's cool. But then if they want that yarn, it's a problem. And it leads to, we have a fairly large store here, but we don't have enough good display space for everything. We have places, there's really high ceilings in here. We could put stuff up on high on the walls, but then we can't get it down to show y'all.
People want to look and touch,
and they want to feel like this. They're like, ooh, and I have to take it off, and they squeeze it, and they so we could rearrange. We've had to start to go higher with storage in cardboard boxes. It's not that attractive, but it's working for us right now. And that's places we could put samples, but we haven't right now, because we need more things to put them on. We need to go back to IKEA, and we haven't gone to IKEA in a year or more to get more. I've rotated half of the samples that you can see from the window that are right behind the camera here. I've rotated those a little bit. But for the most part, trying to find a good way to display everything takes up so much space that, yes, we have boxes on the floor here where we dig through to show people stuff.
Well, and when you decide to make a sample, sometimes it's, I want that sweater for personal use, but I can show it off at the shop.
And so it usually lives at the shop.
Or
going back to what you were saying at the beginning, do I pick a pattern or a yarn? It depends. More often than not, I am trolling Ravelry and I see really cool things and I say I could make that from X, Y, or Z in the shop. That's pretty. It would be great for this yarn. The smaller percentage of the time, we get in a new yarn and I say I need to make something out of this, and then I go with a specific idea in mind to Ravelry, or a pattern came in with it that it's like, ooh, I'm definitely going to make that. So there's not as much rhyme and reason as you might believe or think or hope to what's going on. There is some level of the analytical part of my brain will go, well, we have enough shawls, or we have enough this, or we have enough that. I got into my sweater kick last year and I haven't really stopped. And not everyone wants a sweater, but it will still show how the yarn knits up. And then we'll still have people come in the shop and say, do you have this color knit up?
For when I pick yarn to knit or crochet, if I don't have a specific project in mind, it's because it's pretty. We just got something in and I have to put that in my home collection.
Well, and you don't necessarily have to think as much about what's going to help the shop.
Samples as much as, but I have.
And that's okay.
I leave my projects here during the summer, especially because they can show off the yarn and be a sample. But in the wintertime, most of my shawls go home because I wear them.
You need them.
Like sweater. They're my sweater coats. Like they are what I use as a coat. But if I don't have a project in mind, it's pretty. Like some of the new stuff we're going to show you.
Which, soon.
And if I have a pattern in mind, then it's okay, hunting through stuff I already know we have, but what is going to work well with it?
In the back of my head, there's always a little bit of, would this be something some people would want to make? Is there a yarn in the shop that will show this off or show off the yarn really well? Also, level of difficulty. I don't want all my things to be super difficult, because we have knitters and crocheters at all different levels of, or where they would put themselves, or at all different levels of expertise, right? And then you have people who, even if they consider themselves an expert, they might want an easy pattern sometimes. And so I want to make sure, I try to keep in mind that not everyone is going to want the complicated pattern. So I should also be working on some things that aren't super complicated. And that's fun for me too. I'm a big fan of if you only have, say, 2 or 3 projects going, have one be a little more complicated, have one be a little easier, no matter what your level of expertise is. Because take a break. You can take a break with an easy pattern rather than taking a break with no knitting, So, and I also, on the flip side of that, is I'd love to show people something that might be pushing them out of their comfort zone a little, but they can do it. And then I have a million things in my head. You wonder why I'm stressed and tired sometimes, but I still love it all, because we have this new yarn in. I'd love to find something that would show it off. That's what happened with this one here. I've got this speaking of samples, pile of patterns here. The faucet top that I made really was, this new yarn had just come in and let me find a pattern that will show this off well. And I didn't know if it was going to be a sweater, but it ended up being a sweater. And it was so much fun to make. And now I'm at the point where there are so many things on needles. I really would like to finish a few more. This is an example of one I finished. And these, both the one I'm wearing here and this one, which are different colorways of Daydream Direct, but can you tell I like the same general range sometimes? Were made several, a long time apart. Well, both within the pandemic, but they're great things to wear to show off what you can do with one skein of fingering weight yarn. And so sometimes my brain is overanalyzing all of these things. And sometimes, especially if I'm stressed out, and I have been lately.
And we're left alone at the shop.
Well, that too. I will also say, well, what do I want to do? And sometimes what I want to do also overlaps with what my knitters might want to do. I never know. Sometimes something I think no one's going to want to do, but I really, really got attracted to it, I'll have a bunch of people come ask for it because I'm showing it off to them. So it's everything's taken on a new life since COVID, since the world fell apart, that I was trying to plan for. Before COVID, I was planning a month or two ahead for all the lessons. We would do intro on Saturday mornings. It was always intro, either knit or crochet. It rotated. And Saturday afternoon, I'd have a couple different classes of that same skill of starting a project. And so each month I'd have to come up with about 8 different things, and I'd have to get the samples done before the class, or at least enough of it done that I could start the class. And that was its own pressure. And I'm sure a lot of the same decisions were going into that.
Yeah,
right. But now it's more free form, and I have a million things going on at once.
It was, so. A lot of it was Christmas is coming. Okay, let's,
Speaking of planning ahead.
If we're going to do a Christmas stocking for a class, you have to start that like in October.
Yeah.
So people have time to get a Christmas stocking,
Because everyone knits at a different pace, or crochets at a different pace. So the whole, how long should this take me? That's a tough question to answer because there are so many different factors that go into it, because everyone has different levels of how much time a day they can dedicate to knitting and how fast their knitting is going to go within that. So those
Mine
are hard
depends
questions
on how many butterflies I'm going to chase.
And how busy the shop is.
And how busy the shop is.
And how many projects we have on needles. And so it's hard we're not clocking time on each project. And even if we were, how long it takes us is not how long it's going to take you. You could be faster or slower than us. We don't know. But what else was in that question about? Let's see. Let's review that one, and then we can show off some yarn colors, and then we can go start our day.
How you decide what to make. Is it by new yarn received, seasonal colors? We've done a couple of seasonal colors.
I've tried to work with the Pantone colors of the year. I have one going in the yellow and gray, not quite the same as the Pantone colors. So sometimes it's seasonal, or it's what's the fashionable, but oftentimes it's what's going to look good together or in this project.
And new patterns, we've discussed that. And how do we rotate them? How do we have them? Do we have them up for a period of time? Do we sell them? Do we put them to the side until they tickle our fancy? Occasionally you will rotate the ones that
and here's the thing about rotating them. I struggle with that because we have some patterns that are always popular. Like, not one that I've made, but one I'm thinking I might have to make is the ranunculus that I put in the newsletter this past week, because Liz, you've got at least two. And one of our knitters came by with one, and it's a pattern that came out like right before the shop opened, but it remains in the most popular patterns on Ravelry. So that's going to eat away at me until I make one probably. But yeah, rotating the ones up there. We've got the Fall River over there which has been there since the shop opened, because it's so popular, because people go, ooh, that's pretty. And so it's hard to rotate when everything's pretty. Like, I think the Oshara shawl we could probably finally pull down, but because we don't have that much of that yarn anymore. This is making me think, ooh, we can shake stuff up a bit. I mean, it's nice to display things that are popular that people want to make. But then, I've put some hats up over there, and I forgot about them. And lately we've had people walk in and go, ooh, I want to make that. It's great inspiration. We never know what is going to inspire people. Sometimes it's something that I've forgotten we made, that someone notices sitting in a pile and goes, or sitting on a chair, and they're like, I want to make that. And there's no real way to predict which one is going to catch someone's attention, because what's sitting on that chair could attract someone's attention that comes in the shop, or it could be that what was there last week would have attracted that person's attention, but they didn't come in that week. Well, and that would make my mind ooze out my ears if I overthought that too much.
We have the same issue when you put ideas in your newsletter. Is people will come in and go, so I noticed in Rebecca's newsletter that she did a thing on hats, and I'm like, I skimmed the newsletter. I always skim the newsletter, and I didn't see hats in it. They saw a newsletter from a month ago,
but it's the one they remember.
The one they remember with hats, and
I put one out a week, and oh my gosh!
Then I have to go and find the.
We will do our best with that.
Right.
This whole question is making me think that, like, when we were letting very few people in, we had the samples organized in such a way that we knew where the hats were and we knew where the shawls were and the cowls, and we had stacks. And it's gotten disorganized again, but I'm starting to think we should probably put more things out on display. And but display also means where we can like glance around the shop and find the one we're looking for.
Because inevitably the one we're looking for is in the front window
or at the bottom of the
bottom
stack,
of a box.
and and we can't find it. And every time I try to organize it, then we have to look for something and it's unorganized again. Life. So those are really good questions, really good things to think about. At some point we should plan ahead. We'll see if we get there. Because again, I'm kind of,
but then
most of me is going day by day. What?
But then would that be us?
It could be if we want it to be. But would you be entertained by that? Let us know in the comments.
Mount Everest is full of dead bodies that were highly motivated.
I know. I sent that to Liz yesterday. It's like Mount Everest, like all the dead bodies on Mount Everest are people who were highly motivated. Just think about that for a minute. Just like,
calm down.
Just calm down. Life is sometimes beyond our control, but
so much,
which, you know, I don't fully believe yet, but it's smacking me in, life has been smacking me in the face with that lately. But then the logical part of my brain is still like, no, I can control it all. Yeah. Anyway,
new yarn. We got new yarn colors.
And as I move this out of the way, and I want to talk about Patreon before we go to just a little bit. So let's start with this. Mushishi just unbecame our yarn of the week. It was the yarn of the week last week. And then we just filmed new stuff. And right when we filmed new stuff, new Mushishi colors came in because the colors, most of the colors we can't get back in anymore, people scarfed up last week. Absolutely. And thank you. I'm glad they found a good home. So I reordered. I'm realizing why I'm like, but this isn't everything. We ran out of Oceanic like that, which was the blue and teal and green and really pretty. It is back in stock, at least 4 skeins of it. We get it in bags of 4, believe it or not, because they're huge. They're huge skeins.
2.5 balls of normal balls.
Yes, of normal balls. The skein is 250 grams. And a lot of the yarn in here is 100 grams. So almost 500 yards. I figured since there are colors that we love that we can't get back in, and I don't even know what they look like anymore because they're gone, that we would get new. And by the way, there's little cutesy patterns that come with a lot of these. I ordered some of the colors we haven't tried before. Why not replace them? Because this yarn is really fun. So this is Mojave. I'm sorry, I'm going to pronounce it in a horrible way. This is color number 27.
It is my new favorite.
It's like painted desert colors.
Yes.
All right. So we've got a couple different shades of green in here. We've got like an olivey, not quite olivey, like a spring green and like that blue green in here. And we've got reds or like orangey reds and taupes and browns. And oh my gosh, it's so hard to explain, but it's so pretty. It's
buy it now before it has to come home with me.
And before you buy it, you should know that the prices on this went up. So we had it at like $40, almost $41 before, and there was a 15% off for the sale week. Yay! Why am I opening that? That's not the right one. And the price on this, because we haven't ordered it in a while, has gone up enough that these are now $45 a skein, because we have to cover our costs and keep the shop going and keep you supplied with yarn. And when the yarn comes to us at a higher cost, we have to bump up the price ever so slightly. So this Mojave, before we move on to the other fun color, I am making a sweater out of the harvest color, which is gorgeous. Yummy. And I saw this and was like, oh my gosh, but I've already started this. I'm going to see this through to the end someday. But the harvest color is more deep reds and taupes and browns and orangey. And this is just a lighter palette, but it's got a more range of color in it, the Mojave. I haven't taken photos yet. I hope to at some point today to get them up online. So
yesterday we were like, there was so much we had to do, and we were just busy
enough, like not crazy busy, but just busy enough with people walking up and appointments and things happening, and that it didn't happen.
This one is taupe black.
And it's not like it's black.
No.
Like, there's little flecks of black in
It's
it.
like blue grays and taupes.
And no one can see it because it's behind the the hand sanitizer. Okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
The black that you see is actually the
cords,
the ties.
Yeah. So there's
that
flecks
hold it
of
all.
black in it. And yeah, they're the what she was saying, blue grays and taupes, and like it's our closest to being a neutral now. That's not the graphite. Like we got more of the graphite in too. This is the graphite. It's got the lighter grays in it. This is the taupe black is more muted instead of having so see, this is graphite, which we still have. This is taupe black. It's going to be more
lighter.
In the middle, muted.
Yeah.
Well, medium,
Medium.
though I would say, because this has both lighter and darker tones in it. This is something not as like wide ranging in terms of its variety. It's pretty.
This is evergreen. It is olive green.
It's more
foresty
olivey.
Green, blacks, browns.
Like the evergreen of the fiber spates is more of a blue green, right? And a rich forest green. And this one is much more olivey. There's hints of that forest green in it, but it's much more olive. And it's another one I think is so pretty.
It is so pretty.
This is okay. Going back to samples in the shop. Sometimes I want to knit with that again, but we already have it in the shop. So sometimes I have to wrench myself away from the things I want to knit with because I need to make sure there's a variety of samples in the shop with different yarns. And then there's yarns like fiber spates, which sometimes I'm pairing it with other things, but it's my go-to because it just looks so good. And these look good, but I already have, multiple samples. So please buy them so I don't have to look at them and go, but I wish I could knit with them. Anyway, the Patreon. I didn't mention, I think yet this week that we have a Patreon account and it's growing, which is wonderful. And I filmed, we're starting to do more behind the scenes for the higher levels. It's like the highest 2 levels you can subscribe to get behind the scenes. And all of the levels got to see my first behind the scenes video of how I was setting up one of my tips and tricks videos. I filmed a little bit of prep for my tips and tricks for this Monday as a behind the scenes, and I just edited it this morning. So I hope to publish that soon, but that will only be available to, I think it's the $25 and $35 a month levels. So if you're intrigued, but no, it's the 35 and 50. Sorry, because one of our shout out to Donna, she upgraded from 25 to 35 so she could keep seeing them. So I'm going to publish that. I'm thinking about putting in some higher levels in the Patreon account for extra freebie fun things. You can get fun things after you're subscribed for 3 months. You can get some things that are for certain levels. And even at the $3 a month level, you get your name in the credits. So I see someone walking up and it is 10 o'clock almost.
Yes, I know.
Well, we could maybe... we might have to. So we love you guys. We miss you. I'm going to finish up the whole...
subscribe. We're at 547.
We're very excited by this. And knit night tomorrow night, 6 to 9 p.m. I feel like it's already Friday, but it's Thursday, 6 to 9 p.m. Use the shop phone number to get in. It's 828-877-3550. And we will see you next week. Okay? Bye.